Coming up, a quintessential American rock band had its back against the wall as the 80s dawned. They either needed a hit, or according to the record label, they were done. Now, they released a single and an album that would make the record books. They became one of only 7 rock acts to spend over 15 weeks at #1. Coming up next, the lead singer and creator of this song and album tells us how he and his band were able to deliver amongst all that pressure. And it's such a great story how this song came to be. It's coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you're over the moon about music and really pop culture, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss an episode. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell so you never miss out on our daily content. Stories straight from the legends. And make sure to check out our new show on Patreon. The link for that is below. So I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series, Revelations. This is where featured artists reveal rare stories about their biggest songs and their biggest albums, along with fascinating insight about their careers and how they came to that point. On this installment of Revelations, we put a true smash hit under the microscope. As the 80s began, American band REO Speedwagon, or just the Speedwagon as Johnny from Cobra Kai refers to them.
You like Speedwagon? What kind of man doesn't?
Anyway, Kevin Cronin and his band REO Speedwagon, they had their backs in a corner. You know, they'd produced several albums with songs that achieved some success on radio, but nothing up to that point had really broken out. They didn't have any big top 20 hits or anything like that. And they were told that they needed to deliver on their next album or they were in danger of losing their record deal. Enter Hi Infidelity, a classic album that would not only save their bacon, it would become one of the biggest rock albums ever. To put it in perspective, there have been just under 5 million albums released since the invention of recorded sound. Only 27 albums have spent at least 15 weeks at the #1 spot on the album charts. Hi Infidelity by REO Speedwagon is one of those albums. Now, going even further, only 7 rock acts can lay claim to that title. Hi Infidelity was pushed to the top of the charts by 4 big singles on the album. It was Take It on the Run, Don't Let Him Go, In Your Letter, and of course, Keep On Lovin' You. Keep On Lovin' You was the first single off the album, and it truly set the stage for what would follow. It spent 1 week at #1 in early 1981, and of course, everybody knows this song. An explosive power ballad that starts with an intimate piano feel and builds to the electric sing-along chorus that pretty much anyone who has ever listened to music knows by heart and can sing along to. And how this song came to be, or how it came to Kevin, is one of my favorite rock and roll stories. Up next, the man himself tells us that story. I actually had a chance to sit down with Kevin Cronin in his home and hear it straight from him as he showed me exactly how he came upon it on the piano. This story, I'm telling you, it's a can't miss. Kevin also tells us some other stories from the album and other songs from it. Now, this episode is sponsored by Zenni Eyewear, the brand of glasses that I jam every day. If you need a pair of glasses or even sunglasses, I'm telling you, Zenni is the only choice. You create your look, you put in your prescription, and you pay less than a vinyl record. You're going to be amazed. Go to Zenni.com today to check it out. Here's Kevin Cronin on Keep On Lovin' You.
There was something missing.
You understand, like you talk about the Beatles, this album, just the mere seeing of the cover or hearing any song from it, it takes me back to 1980. It takes me back to when I was 4 years old. My dad and I, you know, we butted heads all growing up. I mean, we never got along, saw eye to eye on anything, but music was the only thing. The only thing that and baseball. The only 2 things that connected us, but especially music, because when I was growing up, he would always tell me the stories behind the songs, and we listened to Casey Kasem's Top 40 Countdown, all that kind of stuff. And of course, being a child of the 60s, he told me all about all those bands. But that memory of hearing Keep On Loving You and him going by the record and playing it and all that kind of stuff, it's like a time machine. It takes me back right to that place.
That's so awesome, though, that you have that connection with your dad through music. For me, but my parents' music was so, it was big bands and horns.
Right.
There were no guitars. It made no sense to me. It was like old people music. But there was a certain sweet spot there where you could be a kid and the rock and roll, had been around long enough. If you were a kid who kind of liked rock and roll, your music wasn't all that different than your dad's. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I want to ask you about putting this album together because you guys had really taken these steps, the live album and with 9 Lives and all these things to where you were kind of ready for that breakout. And you probably weren't prepared for the breakout that this thing was. Because like I said, 100,000 albums, a little less than 100,000 albums in the rock era, and only 15 albums out of those have spent that much time at number 1. Tell me about that moment and putting this album together, but you probably weren't prepared for that.
We had come so close to just, getting over the hump with so many albums. And we had a lot of fans, especially in the Midwest, who had seen us play because we've been playing, 200 shows a year since, 1971. So there were a lot of people who kind of grew up with us and they knew songs from those first few records, but we just couldn't quite, break through. We had this faith that was based in the fact that in St. Louis, we could headline Busch Stadium and play for, 65,000 people. We'd go to LA and we couldn't fill the whiskey. But we always kind of thought, well, geez, if we can have that kind of an impact here in St. Louis, that's,
why not?
We got something going here. Whatever it was just kind of a nebulous thing, but we had this, blind faith belief. We just, Gary and I just had a real drive and a really strong belief. And I think that each of us as individuals had that, and then we fed off each other too. Mm-hmm. So it kind of became, bigger than both of us. But up until the Hi Infidelity record, it was always kind of like, one record would kind of have a little bit more of my influence. Mm-hmm. The Tuna Fish album was a little bit more my influence. Yeah. The 9 Lives album was a little bit more Gary's influence. There was always kind of one of us who was either had a better litter of songs, that at that particular time or whatever it was. But for Hi Infidelity, we were kind of both in the same boat, and it just kind of, the stars aligned for us. Yeah. But it was weird because, I came in and started playing the chord. I sat down at the piano at SIR, right? And I'm playing this. I'm playing. That came to me in the middle of the night before, and I just sat there and played that. And usually, what happens at an REO rehearsal is somebody, starts playing something, and then either everybody else starts playing along or everybody else goes out and starts shooting baskets. And so you kind of can tell if what you're doing is sticking, I was like a lonely soldier on that one.
They were kind of fighting you on a little bit, right?
It just didn't connect with them on a musical level. And I had already written, you should have seen by the look in my eyes, baby, there was something missing. So that kind of all came to me at the same time. And I just was like, I just felt a connection to that music that I had no control over. So I just sat there and played that over and over. And finally, Rich Rath picked up his guitar, plugged it into a Marshall stack and started playing along with this nasty, distorted, he was just trying to drown me out.
Right.
But I'm like, dude,
it's awesome.
What are you doing? That's perfect. And he was like, what? And that was kind of, because the song was a little too sweet on the piano it really wasn't an REO Speedwagon song yet. But when Gary started playing, it was like, now it's an REO Speedwagon song. We kind of discovered accidentally a way to take my kind of folk songs and turn them into REO Speedwagon songs. All it needed was Richrath to try to destroy them with his guitar. That made the magic happen.
You're going to have to indulge me a little bit because I'm a kid in the candy store here. Would you mind playing the verse and chorus for me? And show me kind of.
I'll see if I can get through it here.
Okay.
A little early in the day. Let's see. And I'm gonna keep on loving you.
Yeah, I love the ending too. The ending was always something that when I was listening to pop music growing up, you know, you'd fast forward or whatever. You get into the song and you kind of get to that point where you listen. This was one of the one pop songs I always listened to the end because of that ending. I always wanted to hear that ending.
That's totally, you know what that ending is. You know, the TWO record was recorded in Nashville, and Marty Robbins was doing a session in Studio B. We were the first rock and roll band to ever play in the Columbia Studios in Nashville. And Floyd Kramer was on the session. And this little lick, you know, taking that 2 and 3 and messing with it, that's Floyd Kramer.
Oh,
so that
wow.
ending, that's a total country. That's a, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was the only piano lick I knew, was Floyd Kramer.
Well, one of the most definitive power ballads in the history of rock. Really, the power ballad, in essence, was kind of born in a way there because that perfect kind of piano with the guitar builds and then boom. It's also been so used in pop culture. I mean, that's when you know a song stands the test of time, is it just keeps kind of popping up. Drive Me Crazy and Cold Case. But Keith Urban was doing it on his tour, you know, a couple of years ago, all the time.
First of all, I'm a huge Keith Urban fan. Yeah. And, you know, we've met a couple of times, nice guy. And what was weird about it was that he played it as his encore and just solo on piano. And I never understood, like he was, you know, on the top of the world playing, you know, selling out 20,000 seat arenas. Of all the songs, you know, why would he play Keep On Loving You? And I asked him, and he goes, well, that's my sing-along. And it's like, so that's the song that it's like an old song to him that all of his audience will be able to sing along to. And I'm like, that's freaking awesome.
Lisa Loeb, she's got a cover of it too.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she?
The Donnas, they recorded it for the movie.
You know who else did a cover of it? The Deftones. Yeah. That was the first one. I was like, how cool is that?
I know.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it's also been using Crank, that movie. The scene they use it on is very interesting. Wet Hot American Summer was a movie, and then they did this TV kind of series of it, and they used it in that. And the video is very iconic. I mean, it was the 17th video. I always love these facts. The 17th video played when MTV started. I love the phone, and it's plugged into the, you know, that's perfect. Tell me about the video. Did you guys have kind of a part in writing the treatment?
No, pardon me. No, we had no part at all in writing the treatment. It was, you know, MTV had just started, and no one, you know, it wasn't the iconic MTV.
Right.
It had just been on for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
When they told us we were going to make videos, we didn't even know what they were talking about. We made 4 videos in one afternoon.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't, and none of us are, well, certainly I have no talent as an actor. Bruce is actually pretty good. He had some good performances in later videos, but of the 5 of us, I have the least acting ability, naturally. But being the singer, I was kind of the main character in this video. And was that the one where I'm like sitting on a psychiatrist's couch? Oh my God. Where does she come from, doctor?
who is this woman?
The weird thing about it
I
is,
love it because it just takes me back, you know? I just like,
yeah, it takes me back, all right, but not to a place I necessarily want to be. But it's a strange thing because when you make records, the songs are brand new. So you're recording the definitive version of a song,
right,
and you barely know it yet, and, which is kind of cruel because every time I hear one of those songs on the radio, it's like someone showing me my high school yearbook, and I gotta look at that hairdo again. You know what I mean? It's like, and all I want to say is I want to go, dude, you know, come and see us in concert. We play it so much better now. You know, I can sing it so much better.
Take It on the Run, top 5 hit. Went to number 5. Another one of those songs just takes me right back. Tell me about recording that, putting that together.
I mean, well, that was the 1-2 punch that brought Hi Infidelity. It was doing okay with Keep On Lovin' You. And then when Take It on the Run came out, it's like all hell broke loose. But, you know, the record company, it's pretty funny. Our record company, first, they didn't want us to put Keep On Lovin' You on the record because they didn't think it was a hit.
Oh my gosh.
And they wanted, for the second, when it became a hit, they wanted the second single to be In Your Letter. And I was just like, guys, the second single is Take It on the Run. You know, at some point, you know, you just have to go, you know, it's nice to listen to what other people say and factor it in. But at some point, you know, I felt like, wait a minute, Keep On Lovin' You is the #1 record in the country. I think I've got the right to just go, this is what we want. And Gary and I were in agreement, and it was like, we're going for it. But Take It on the Run, it originally wasn't called Take It on the Run. I went out to Gary's house, as I used to do, and kind of go through all of his notebooks and demos, because he was like a mad scientist out there. You wouldn't see him for weeks. He'd be in the studio 24 hours a day, just churning out stuff. And, you know, like all of us, they weren't all gems. So I had to kind of go through it. That was kind of one of my roles in the band. We'd worked all day, and I'm kind of frustrating. And he goes, we didn't really come up with anything. And Gary's like, well, you know, I got this one slow one. I don't think it's really any good. It's a slow song. I'm like, well, let's hear it. Okay, I hear this. Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another, you've been messing around. And I'm like, dude, that's the greatest opening line.
No kidding.
That not only that you've ever written, but I think I can honestly say, I mean, to me, the opening line of a song is so important. You know, to me, probably the best ever is, I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me.
Oh yeah, Norwegian Wood.
Norwegian Wood, you hear that line, and it's like, I just want to hear the rest of that song.
I once had a girl, or should I say?
That line sets you up for the story, right? You want to hear where it goes. And also, it's so indelibly in the psyche now of the world that whenever you say, well, I heard it from a friend. This has happened a million times. Well, I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who.
I was talking to my wife the other day, who's 10 years younger than me, and she was one of the few women in Wisconsin who was not an REO Speedwagon fan in the 80s. But that line, she said, when I think of REO Speedwagon, I think heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend. And just recently, Pitbull, he just did it. He just, him and Enrique just kind of.
Yeah, Enrique Iglesias.
They're singing together, and then it kind of goes into this thing, and I was like,
the tip of the hat.
That's pretty cool.
Heard it from another, you've been messing around.
Thanks for watching. Leave us a comment about this 80s power ballad extraordinaire and Kevin Cronin and Gary Richrath and REO Speedwagon below. What are your memories, your feelings about this amazing blockbuster album, Hi Infidelity? What was its impact on you? If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe below. Don't forget to check out our new merch below and our Patreon for even more content. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.